Hey guys and girls, my name is Alan and welcome to today's gameplay commentary. As you can see, today I'm going to be doing some Battlefield 1 open beta. This will actually be the second gameplay commentary I'm going to do for the open beta. So the first video that I did was sort of first impressions, early first impressions, and I guess this is going to be in a similar sort of vein. In my previous video I did say how I've been away from YouTube and stuff like that for a while, a good couple of weeks actually. So I'm a little bit behind, but I'm hoping to do a couple of these because obviously the game's coming out in 2 weeks. And the previous video was sort of a channel update, so if you want to know what I've been up to and what my plans are the next couple of weeks, then that video will be on the channel immediately before this one. I think it went up at the weekend, hopefully it went up at the weekend. So the thing about Battlefield matches is that they're quite long, so I sort of cut the beginning a little bit. I didn't get any kills up until the point that I've started recording, so don't worry, you didn't miss any action at the start. I will be cutting some sections out as well, so you'll see it jump like from time frame to time frame. And that's just me cutting out like the boring bits when I'm just driving around doing nothing, or if if I'm just sitting somewhere just protecting a site and nothing's happening, that sort of thing. But obviously I don't want you to miss out on what's happening, the general gist of the game. So I'll cut out what's necessary, but I'll leave hopefully the important bits and trim this video down to about 15 or so minutes, because I mean the Battlefield games can go up to over half an hour, and this match itself was about 20-something minutes originally, so the final version you'll see will be maybe 15 as I say, or less than that, hopefully. Okay, so in the previous video I never really talked too much about vehicle combat, and that's a big part of Battlefield. That's what distinguishes it in my eyes from other FPS shooters, is that the vehicles and just that sort of stuff that you wouldn't otherwise get in multiplayer shooters, which generally focus on infantry combat. So that's why I play Battlefield. So I touched lightly on the subject in the previous video, but today I'm going to talk a lot more about my impressions of the vehicle combat and how it works and everything. So leading up to the open beta, the thing that I was most excited for was aerial combat, dogfighting in planes, using the bombers, etc. Now the way that they worked was pretty good. Flying the planes and stuff relatively simple. You don't have to take off, you sort of just, it's a bit like a Star Wars Battlefront in terms of getting into a plane. You sort of just, you spawn in one that's already in mid-flight, so you just need to sort of take over the controls and then pilot it, and then obviously just go about using it. So there's no taking off. I don't think there's any landing, at least. You can try and land, but it may not work out too well for you. But I've seen a couple of planes hit the ground and sort of survive, and then people have taken off again, but it's not something that I think they want you to do. There's no like landing strip or airway or anything like that, so it's sort of, you can sort of do it, but it's not like it's not something you want to do like all the time. At least I don't think you can even do it very well because the ground isn't particularly flat in a lot of places, so trying to land is not easy, and you are going to take damage. That's assuming you don't get blown out of the sky on the way down first anyway, so you can do it, but at your own risk sort of thing. Okay, so one of the things I was really looking forward to is dogfighting. So obviously being a gunner in a plane as your mate's piloting it, or if you're piloting it and obviously they're a gunner, I mean, as I said, the whole mechanics and stuff is quite smooth, but the actual doing it itself in the game is quite hard. The planes move relatively fast. You wouldn't think so, but they do move quite fast, and the weapons don't do a great deal of damage. So you might tag an enemy a couple of times, but it'll only take about 25% off the health, depending on where you hit them, but not enough to bring them down in one strafe. So I mean, in some of the games I played, and I don't think I've got any actual decent aerial combat to share with you, unfortunately, because as I said, it was quite tricky. And so a lot of time it was a case of me piloting and someone trying to shoot down an enemy plane, and I did my best to like sort of get them into a good position, but as I said, like unless you communicate with your gunner, or unless the pilot communicates with you when you're the gunner, it's very hard to line up a target, get decent shots on, and eventually down an enemy. And the same goes with the bomber as well. The thing about the bomber is the plane flies a bit slower, it's a bigger target, so it's easy to shoot down if you're manning like an AA turret or something, anti-air turret. So flying low is always a risk, but you want to fly low so that you can get good acquisition of targets when you're using the bombing feature. Unfortunately, you're the bomber and the pilot at the same time, which is good if you can do it, but I mean, I struggle to multitask a little bit because as I said, you're flying quite low, so you've got to be aware of the anti-air turrets, and then you've got to be aware of enemy fighter jets trying to shoot you down, and at the same time you need to be wary of obstacles when you're flying low, and then you need to pick a target and sort of drop the bombs at the same time, and it's all very, I mean, I guess if you practice enough you probably could do it quite well, but for me, I just I struggled a little bit, and I mean, I kind of think of myself as like a fast learner, but I was still struggling to master the art of flying and bombing at the same time. So I don't know, maybe it's just you need more practice, but I just thought it was a bit tricky. And as I don't think I'm a bad player. I just, yeah, I struggle with it, so I think maybe the average person will struggle as well. But that's just me. Maybe you fared differently. Let me know in the comment section if you did. So that's about it for the air combat. As I said, a lot harder than I thought it would be. I mean, I didn't think it would be easy, but I didn't think it'd be as hard as it was. And yeah, I think communication is definitely very important. If you're going to be flying with a random, it's not probably going to work out too well for you. So yeah, I'll wait and see how it goes. As I said, hopefully I'll squad up when I play, so it might be a different experience. But in the beta, I mostly played solo because of the random hours that I was playing. So we'll have to wait and see. It's only about 2 weeks now till release, so not too long to wait. As I said in my previous video, I will be doing a gameplay walkthrough, and I'll be posting that on my players channel. That channel is linked in the description. It is also linked in the channels list, so if you want to check out me playing the campaign, then head over to there and check it out when it comes out. In the meantime, I think I'm going to try and do the Battlefield Hardline gameplay walkthrough that I was planning to do before Battlefield 1 came out. Time is not on my side at the moment, so I don't know whether I'm going to be able to do it, but I will start it. Whether or not I complete it is another thing. Okay, so moving on to ground vehicles. Now, there's an assortment of ground vehicles. So the first one is the horse, which, I mean, it's a horse. You ride it around. You can chop people down with a sword, and you can also shoot them with your rifle. I struggled a little bit at the start, but once I mastered how to use it, it was really fun. The horse has an insane amount of health, so the chances are you'll die before it does. But if you can sort of evade enemy fire, and the horse, you know, sort of use it to block your bullets and stuff, enemy bullets, it's actually really powerful. And I think they nerfed it slightly, at least they're planning to nerf it for the final version. But when you're riding around, you chop people down, you can run them over as well with the horse. It is so satisfying, and there's a few clips I've yet to share with you guys and girls, but I managed to go on a couple of streaks with the horse, and it is mental how good it can be if played properly. So I mean, I'll probably share some footage of that, as I said, in highlight sections and stuff. I don't think I've actually got any like horse only gameplay, because I sort of only use the horse when I've got no other vehicles to drive, because I like using the horse, but I prefer to be in tank, and I'll cover the tank in a minute, but I'll just do the other vehicles first. So there's a couple of armoured vehicles. There's one where you can drive around with a lot of people. It's called, I think it's called the armoured Jeep. I'm not too sure, but it's got like a couple of main turret guns, machine guns, not launchers or anything. And then there's a rocket vehicle. I don't think it's called the rocket vehicle, but basically it's a one-man vehicle, and you can either change between a mounted machine gun or a mounted launcher. Kind of powerful, but the fact that you have to drive and, you know, and then stop the vehicle to shoot makes it, I don't know, not that great for me. There is a light tank, which again is a one-man vehicle, and it's basically a small tank with a turret. Well, it can either be a launch, it can either be like a shell firing turret, or it can be, I believe, a machine gun turret. And again, that's one person driven, but you can drive and shoot at the same time. It's not too bad, but armor wise it's not too strong. So if you take on other tanks, you're gonna have to be either really smart or hope that you can evade shots, because if you take a few, you will go down quite quickly. And my favourite tank is the one that I'm piloting in this video, and it's called the is it called the heavy tank? I think there's an official name for it, but we'll refer to it as a heavy tank for now, and the smaller one is a light tank. So the heavy tank has a main gun at the front and a couple of machine guns around the sides and the back, and you can carry a lot of people in this vehicle, so it's great if you're squadding up. And the thing that I sort of like learned as I played the beta is that it's best to have people in the tank. I mean, you always want people in the tank with you, but more so in this game, I think, than a lot of the other games, because the maps are so big and there's a lot to keep an eye on in the tank. Right? You can get hit from enemy air vehicles, you can get hit by other enemy tanks, you can also get hit by stationary anti-tank weapons. So you sort of need to have a 360 view of the map, and if you're driving the tank, you can only sort of concentrate on the front side of things, and that's only going to give you about 40% of the map view. And also, ground infantry, while for the most part aren't that problematic, because being in a tank is ridiculously good, right? You've got a lot of armor, you've got a lot of weapons, you've got a lot of defense, but that's only if you've got like a couple of people in there with you. If you're by yourself, you're only manning the main gun, and the main gun is great for taking out, like as I said, like stationary targets such as other anti-tank weapons or tanks themselves. But trying to take out infantry on your own just by using the main tank gun can be tricky, and they can sort of like mug you off, not so much doing you a lot of damage, but like sort of preoccupying you. And if you're preoccupied trying to evade them or trying to take them out, you can easily get flanked by other tanks or, as I say, other anti-tank weapons, and that can be problematic for you. So it's always good to have people in there with you, but unless you're communicating, just like being a pilot in a plane, it's difficult for them to acquire targets and for you to sort of direct them who to shoot and stuff. So yeah, communication is key. Without it, you are going to sort of struggle a little bit. But hopefully, as I said, during the final game when I squad up, hopefully I'll be able to get some good teammates on board, and we'll be able to sort of defend ourselves a bit better than if you just did it by yourself. So yeah, being in the tank, as I said, is great. Being out the tank is a whole other story. If you come face to face with the tank, you're ground infantry, and you're coming up against the tank, you're dead. There's no two ways about it. If that tank driver knows what they're doing, you're a dead man. You can try and run and hide, but it's going to be tricky. As I said, the best thing to do is evade and either use a stationary anti-tank weapon or pick up one of the anti-tank weapons that you can get, such as the rifle or one of the specialist classes. But other than that, you're going to struggle. Even if you've got anti-tank grenades and stuff like that, it's going to be tricky to do it one-on-one. Anti-tank mines are really good, but because of the size of the maps, unless you get lucky with your placement, I don't know how much you're going to be able to do against vehicles, because there's so many different avenues they could take. And I mean, for the most part, you can sort of see when people throw down anti-tank stuff. So unless, as I say, you put it down, you've gone away somewhere else, it's unlikely you're going to get a direct hit if you throw it down right in front of them, obviously when they're driving towards you. As you can see in this gameplay, I do go on quite a bit of a streak with the tank, and for the rest of the beta I actually continue to try and get into the tank to continue my streaks, because, as I said, being a tank is great, probably the best weapon in the game. If you're inside a tank and you've got a good team with you inside the tank, then you're going to be damn near impossible to take out, especially if the opposite team aren't really working together as a unit, communicating, that sort of thing. In terms of spawning into the vehicles themselves, I think it could be improved. At the moment, the game sort of gives all the vehicles, like, you select the vehicles the same way you select a spawn point. They'll all be on the map, and they're not physically spawned in. You sort of have to select it, and then it will spawn you into the vehicle straight away. So it's unlike previous Battlefield games where vehicles will spawn in at a certain location, and then you'd run over to it, get into the vehicle, and then obviously it's yours to pilot. But in this game, like Battlefront, it sort of just puts you in the vehicle, and you know, you just use it, and you're there, you're piloting it straight away as soon as you spawn in. Now, I mean, in some ways it's great because you don't have to worry about obviously taking off or landing or getting out of the spawn zone, etc. But I don't know how the game handles the way that players are put into the server, but I've noticed that some players will be there really early, some players will be there really late. I've been on both sides of that, so sometimes I've joined the game and all the vehicles are taken, the match has already started, and you know, I'm at the back of the map basically, and I have to make my way to the front. And other times I spawn in really early, and then I'm waiting for teammates to spawn in, so it's unfair for them, but at the same time, you know, and the reverse of that is unfair for me. So it's I mean, I hope that's something that they can improve, because spawning everyone in at the same time is really what should happen. I don't understand why people are spawning in at different times. Obviously it's a disadvantage because you lose out on vehicles and stuff like that, and also you just get left behind. So if you want to jump in a vehicle with a teammate or whatever, and sometimes you can't do that because there's not enough room, or as I say, if you just want to get into a vehicle to drive it for yourself, that's down to luck sometimes, because if you don't get there quick enough or you don't spawn in quick enough, then there's nothing you can do. And another thing about vehicles is that there's no dedicated mechanic role. So in previous games you'd have a class that was dedicated to fixing vehicles, and that's always been really useful, because if you team up with someone like that, you can worry about driving, you can get someone to worry about the shooting, and then you've got someone to worry about, you know, picking your vehicle up if it gets damaged and so on and so forth. But in this game you can only repair vehicles if you're the pilot or the driver of the vehicle. So again, it's a case of having to stop and repair your vehicle, and it's just, I don't know, it's not very fluid. I just don't understand why they would take out the mechanic role. So hopefully that does change in the final version of the game. If not, you kind of want to team up with someone who's already been a pilot or a vehicle driver, so they can sort of repair your vehicle. But then, in order to do it, they sort of need to sacrifice another vehicle to get that role, so they can team up with you. So I just think that they need to change something. But as I say, hopefully in the final version of the game, we get a dedicated mechanic role, and that sort of works better for everyone. And that's about it really for vehicle combat. As I said, a couple more matches to go up. I don't know if I wanted to be doing gameplay commentaries over them, or if I'm just going to upload them as a raw file, because I think I've covered a lot of the stuff that I wanted to talk about when it comes to Battlefield, and I do have a lot of stuff I need to do, so I'm not too sure how many more matches I can put up really, talking about meaningful content when I could be doing other stuff as well for the channel. But we'll wait and see. Hopefully you enjoyed the match. I did see a few really good clips as I was recording this, so if you enjoyed the content, consider tapping that like button. I really do appreciate it, and stay tuned, because as I said, there are a lot more highlights collections to come up, and the tank is an absolute beast, as you'll see in some other matches and other highlights collections. But that'll do it for this video. As I said, gameplay walkthrough for Hardline, Battlefield Hardline, will hopefully go up on my Players channel soon, either starting next week. Well, the week after obviously will be the actual Battlefield 1 playthrough itself. As I said, raw footage might go up on my Players channel, but I don't know, I may put it on this channel. We'll have to wait and see. So until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, take care, and I will see you later.